Alright guys, welcome back. This is Logan with West Desert Shooter. Today we're going to be doing some reloading and results, more reloading content because I'm having a good time with it. Today we're going to be focusing on the 223 Remington. Specifically, this is actually 5.56 brass. I've just got a lot of it and it's fully prepped, ready for this specific gun. So it's easy to go and just prime, powder, bullet. The bullet we're shooting today, Hornady 53 grain Vmax. Looks like on the little picture here, this guy has a boat tail. Let's crack these open and see if this has a boat tail or a flat base. Okay, so these little 53 grainers do have a boat tail. So in the Hornady load data, it shows a flat base. That's fine with me. I don't mind at all. That's all good. Just couldn't remember exactly. I was given 200 of these a while ago, and I shot the first 100 through my 224 Valkyrie. Now, today we're going to be playing around some 223, try some lighter bullets specifically for reloading purposes, just to go shoot and see what happens. Should be a good time. The powders that we're going to use is going to be Hodgdon H322, which is an extruded powder. It is also part of Hodgdon's Extreme line, so it should be temperature insensitive. Tiny little extruded powder compared to like the other powders that I'm used to. You know, Varget is much bulkier than this, or like, you know, H4350. Stuff like that. The other powder we're going to be using today is new to me. I have not tried this before, Ramshot TAC. It's not a new powder, I just have never tried it because it is a spherical powder. So we're gonna give this a shot and see how it goes today. We're gonna be loading up 3 different charge weights, 5 shots each, and then we've got different charge ranges for each of those 3. So 3 charges of H322, 3 charges of TAC. Powder primer we're going to use is the Federal Premium Gold Medal Match AR. So good solid primer. I've got quite a few of these, so we're just going to be sticking with those. That's how it goes. As far as load data is concerned, I just used the Hornady load data manual from 223 Remington. It shows from the 53 grain Vmax load data, as that would suggest. I am running a 16-inch barrel 1:8 twist on my rifle, so the velocities that we're seeing, what it's suggesting that we should see is somewhere between 3,000 to 3,200 feet a second. I bet we're closer to 29 to 3,100 feet a second because I think Hornady tests with a slightly longer barrel, probably like a 20 or a 24-inch barrel for 223, whereas our barrel is shorter. We're going to get lower velocities, as well as we are running a gas system, which is also going to rob just a little bit of speed as well. No big deal. These guys should still be going plenty fast, especially for those first couple 100 yards, and it should be a good time out there on the range. Going to be shooting 100 yards and shooting for groups on those 100 yards on my little targets that I have come up with. We got H322 sitting in my RCBS Chargemaster Lite. I'm gonna get this thing start spitting out some charges, and maybe I will babble on a little bit here for a minute, and then we are going to go out and hit the range. Let's cover the actual charges we're going to be doing with each powder. For Ramshot TAC, we're going to be shooting 23.5 grains, increasing a half grain to 24, and then 24.5. On H322, I'm using 4/10 increments, and one of those reasons is so that I'm not shooting the exact same charges, and it'll make it easier to just write a number on the side of the case, and I'll know, you know, it's H322, it's not TAC. I'll still probably just put a T and an H with the number on the side of the casing, just because I always do that. Again, in case, you know, your ammo case falls over and all your brass goes running everywhere. I have had that happen like one time, and compared to the like thousands of times I've written on cases, you know, maybe it's worth it. Whatever, no big deal. H322, 23.2 grains is our starting charge. 4/10 increment into 23.6, and final charge of 24 grains. Both of these should be middle of the range charges. Shouldn't be too crazy. We are using the 5.56 brass, so it may come out a little bit hotter than what they may anticipate. Hornady is usually conservative on their data, so overall we should see mid to upper velocity expectations on this for my barrel. On the previous reloading and results with CFE 223 and H4895, I reshot quite a bit of the CFE because the original groups were just bad. And then H4895, I had some promising groups on there, so I chased back after those. The problem is I originally shot that with Lake City 5.56, and then I switched to this WCCO4 brass that I have. Made a really big difference in pressure that we saw, and I shot 10 rounds that were way over pressure before I realized they were over pressure, and then I tried the CFE again, got through 2 of the 3 charges I had loaded up, and again, they were just too hot. So basically that whole thing, I filmed it and everything was just dumpster fire. It all sucked, everything was bad. The groups are irrelevant because it was way too hot. So the key piece of info there, and I know this, I shouldn't have done this, is I switched, like, one of the main components was brass, right? And apparently there's a large difference between Lake City and what this stuff is. So I'm thinking about getting just some brand new, like, Starline 223 brass, just for a good baseline, have some actual good new brass. I've always reloaded stuff like, you know, federal crap ammo and then reloaded it into try and be like, you know, better ammo. But maybe I just need to pony up and get some actual good brass as a baseline to start with. So we're gonna shoot today on the WCCO4, but this is like the start of the series, so we're not gonna be swapping anything. This is just what we're starting with, and I'll continue with this until, you know, I'm happy with it or whatever, however far we get with this. All right, we're gonna go ahead and start charging with the H322 while we're hanging out. One thing I want to talk about coming up on the channel is I'm going to rebarrel my American Rifle Company Action, and it is currently a 6mm Creedmoor. That barrel for me has copper fouled about 3/4 of its life. About 60 to 70 rounds in, it will start copper fouling, and then it starts shooting like shit. So I'm removing that barrel, and I want to keep the compact size because it's only like a 20-inch 6mm Creedmoor, and I've always liked the overall on that. I'm going to be changing that over to a 7mm 08. There's not a ton of reloading content on 7mm 08. I have a bunch of 7mm projectiles that were given to me a couple years ago by one of my viewers, and I want to use and shoot those. It sounds like a fun medium cartridge that, like, you know, we're not burning through a bunch of Magnum sized cartridges. I feel like there's plenty of 308 content out there, and I just want to try out the 7mm 08 for myself. So going to be ordering some dies, going to be shipping out the Action up to a local gunsmith here, and should be really exciting. Excited to bring that to the channel, and also excited to start playing with the new cartridge. And you know, it's mostly going to be focused on reloading like this, where we're just seeing what happens with different powders and bullets. Occasionally, maybe we'll work on a long range load and go out and shoot it far. Like, I bought some 150 grain ELDXs the other day in 7mm specifically for that. So, you know, I bought 1 box of bullets. We're fully committed to building an entire rifle because I bought $30 in bullets, right? So expect that on the channel. It's going to take some time. The gunsmith has a lead time, no surprise. Most of them do. And I'm looking forward to it. Should be a good time. But getting back to this, I'm going to keep throwing all these charges. You guys don't need to listen and watch to all this. Just wanted to give you an update there. Expect that to come up. I think the lead time was somewhere in like 6 to 10 weeks, somewhere in there. So probably towards the later end of summer as of 2023, because I'm filming this early summer. And hopefully we'll have a 7mm 08 on the channel and be out there shooting good groups soon. There's one thing I want to shout out real quick is how absolutely smooth and static free TAC is. It's flowing super well out of the RCBS, and then when I dump it into the cartridges, you know, the cases, super smooth, no static. I barely have to click the pan. Really nice stuff to work with, actually. I'm liking it.
All right, guys, welcome out to the range. We've got our Uintah Precision 223 semi-automatic AR-15. This is an awesome gun, shoots really good. I've had good success with it. Today we're going to play with some 53 grain Vmax, as you guys know, we just loaded. So we've got our target set up at 100 yards, shooting prone, cardboard box, no real surprise there. Got our Arken Optics SH4 Gen 2. This one's the 4-16 because this is my AR-15. We've got the 6-24 on my AR-10. We've got our H322 loads loaded up in here. We're going to start out with 23.2 grains, and we're shooting left to right. This is completely cold bore today. Hasn't been around fired through the 15 yet, so we'll see how this goes. So if there's any excusable flyer for the day, it's this shot. It's like one of my absolute favorite sounds there. Okay, I'm gonna grab that brass, take a peek at it, make sure we're good. 16-inch barrel, first shot, 29.11, which which I would say is on the safer side of things. The primer looks just fine, just making sure the case head doesn't have any like extractor marks or anything scary like that. And it looks pretty good, so we're gonna go ahead and continue firing. All right, H322 pulling through for us. 28.98 average with an SD of 12.4. Through a gas gun, not too bad. Now we're moving on to 23.6 grains of H322. Probably shot about 120 rounds or so, suppressed. And for this precision rifle shooting that I like to do, and actually being able to keep my brass in decent shape, I think I'm going to clean the rifle soon. Get just a bit of an ejector, an extractor swipe on this. Not an ejector, an extractor. So I don't know if we're just overgassed or what. All right, pretty bad SD on that one. Average 29.75, SD 24.1. 24 grains, H322, 53 Vmax. Rifle seems to like the 53s. Certainly doesn't hate them. All right, first shot, 3,039 feet a second. Now I'm getting extractor and a touch of ejector. We'll shoot him because this rifle's been beating my brass up lately. I'm not sure just yet why, but it's not scary to me. It's just not great for my brass. .322 brings it back. Average 30.36 with an SD of 13.7. All right, guys, time for our first shots with Ramshot TAC here in 223 Remington. First shots ever, but that's where we're starting out. So our first charge of TAC, 23.5 grains behind 53 grain Vmax. Got a hummingbird buzzing around me. 100 yards, we're now in full sunlight, so full mirage goes into effect. Oh, fun. Still nice and cool on the range, but that will quickly change. So luckily this is our last group. We can get out of here, get out of the heat. Now, it's a little tricky to tell from here. Okay, looks like we had 3 of them stack on top of each other. Holy cow. Average 27.02 and a abysmal SD of 45. You gotta love reloading, man. Completely switched lanes on us, so I shot those 5 fairly quickly, especially compared to the first group. So average is now 27.58 with an SD of 12.2. But yeah, it's just funny how you can go from like SD of 45, which is just god awful, and then jump down to a 12, which is pretty decent in a gas gun. I don't mind an SD of 12 in a gas gun. Incredibly soft shooting. Just fun. And that group looked pretty good. Yeah, that one looks pretty decent. SD still went to shit. Thank you, ball powders, for confirming why I stuck with extruded powders for so long. Started out $27.99, then $28.71. Wow. $28.04, $28.66, $28.46. Just all over the board. No surprise, but that's how it goes sometimes. Average $28.37, SD 33.9.
All right, guys, we are back here to talk about our groups and velocities. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. Taking a look at the brass, something's up with my gas system. I think that my rifle is over-gassed because I'm getting ejector smears and extractor marks on all these. The primers don't look like they're super flattened out and high pressure. I think the brass is just getting beat up. So whether it's the addition of the suppressor that's inducing more gas, because I think it's a mid-length gas system on this. I traditionally I've owned a rifle length gas system longer than a mid-length, so maybe I'm just not used to seeing this. Maybe this particular brass is thicker and ends up spiking pressure quicker than, you know, Lake City. This is not Lake City brass. This is some other 5.56. I believe it's Western Cartridge Company. It's pretty old stuff. It's from Mark 262 ammo. It's the legit Mark 262 ammo. And I had a bunch of brass given to me that I've been using and shooting for a while, but apparently, you know, maybe it's getting beat up easier than Lake City is. Again, could be the gas system on the gun. Regardless, shot 2 interesting powders here today. And overall, I think they did pretty well for what we first saw. Let's talk about H322 first, as those were the first shots that we sent downrange. Kind of wanted to stick to something I knew to get the day rolling. Hornady 53 grain Vmax. I haven't shot those in 223 very much. I think I loaded up about 100 of those a while ago just as some plinking rounds in 223. I've also loaded those in Valkyrie before as well. And yeah, for today's video, excited to see how they would shoot. Starting out at 23.2 grains. Now I know that these powders are a faster burn rate, so I didn't do my half grain jumps like I normally do. I did 4/10, which is pretty small difference, but you know, sometimes that can make the difference. 23.2 grains, average 28.98, SD of 12.4, and a good solid group start, 0.85. Pretty happy with that overall. SD not too bad for a gas gun. And then right under 2,900 feet a second, things are looking pretty good. Bump up 4/10 to 23.6, 29.75, so we picked up 75 feet a second. SD of 24, so not looking as good on the velocities on that one, but average group size of, I guess not average, group size of 0.63 inches, looking pretty good. Really happy with that so far, things are going good. And then finally at our 24 grain charge, 3,036 feet a second. So from the beginning, we've jumped up about 140 feet a second in less than 1 grain. And then our SD of 13.7, not bad for a gas gun. You know, I'll give it a little more leeway because as you're shooting, it's got a, you know, cycle operating system and all that fun stuff. But our worst group with H322, and you know, for the worst group, it's not so bad. 1.14 out of a gas gun, 16-inch barrel. This should be what it likes though, you know, a light, fast bullet shouldn't be an issue coming out of a 16-inch gun. And overall, did decent. So I expected 3,000 to 3,200 feet a second. That was just a note for myself to, like, if I'm seeing something crazy velocities, I just wanted to have that on hand to be like, hey, this is what we should be seeing. And we saw 2,900 to 3,000 feet a second. So not too bad, shorter barrel, makes sense. It all adds up to me. H322, overall, looking at the groups themselves, I think they look pretty good, and that middle charge really looked like it wanted to shoot. Yeah, that's kind of where I would play more in the future. Again, getting back to what our expectations are and what we're truly looking for, we're not necessarily looking for one good group. We want our components to work consistently and have good groups across the board. And I think we almost saw that today with H322. We had one group which was a slight outlier, which still wasn't bad, but I would expect this thing to be kind of a consistent 0.8 inch shooter, depending on which powder charge we go with. I would kind of expect to see that. Also, we had 2 good SDs and 1 bad SD. So I think with dropping 1 shot in that middle charge, we may have seen a better average. And I think overall, you know, it should have consistent low teen standard deviations, as well as good 0.8 range groups. So that's definitely something we could go back to. I wouldn't feel the least bit bad about trying more of H322 with these 53 grain Vmax. Really happy with how those shot. Let's talk about Ramshot TAC now. Again, ball powder, better for using a powder measure, powder thrower. What the hell do they call those things? I don't know. I'm using my RCBS Charge Master, and it trickles fantastic out of that. So TAC was good to go with that. I don't remember, was it TAC that was static? I mentioned it in the reloading video, so it'll be there if that was. 23.5 grains was our starting charge, average velocity 2702. So we're starting 200 feet a second slower than H322. Standard deviation, a horrible 45 feet a second, and group size of 1.33. That's actually our worst group of the day with the 53 grain Vmax. I don't feel too bad about that personally, you know, shooting a 1.3 inch group with that. And 2 of them were kind of outliers. 1 went high, 1 went low. So that is interesting, but then 3 knocked out the center. So pretty interesting looking group there. Jumping up a half grain increment, I did go a half grain increment on Ramshot TAC to 24 grains, average of 27.58, so picked up 60 feet a second, SD of 12.2, that's good. Group size 1.11, kind of a group, nothing fantastic. Another half grain increase, 24.5, so in the 1 grain increase, we have picked up 140 feet a second yet again, and SD of 33.9, that's gross. Average, not the average, the group size, 0.95 inches, just under an inch. So on TAC, we saw 1.3, 1.1, 0.9. So I would expect this to shoot around that 1.1 range, kind of consistently is what my guess would be. I think we do need to pick up our powder charge a little more, get our velocities up to where H322 is, and see if that helps out overall. So maybe that's something we'll work on in the future, is pushing those velocities a little more. I need to figure out the gas system though, because I don't want to keep beating up my brass really bad, because honestly I might just throw that away, because now I can't read the pressure as well if the brass is already beat up. And it was free to me, so you know, maybe it's worth just getting rid of and not worrying about. Overall, shot pretty good. Our worst group at 1.3, but our best group at 0.6. So definitely showing some promise. I think the barrel can like the bullet. I do want to try the 50 grain Vmax. I think that I've had some experience shooting that before in my Palmetto Stay Armory gun, and that really liked those. So maybe this gun would really like the 50. I don't really care about the difference of the BC between a 53 and a 50, because you know, that's not what I'm choosing to shoot long range with. That would just be a fun little plinking round or whatever. So moving forward with Ramshot TAC, I'm pretty happy with it overall. I'm definitely curious to see how the SDs do in the future. So far, not looking good. I don't expect good standard deviations from that. H322, 2 of the SDs were pretty dang good, and I would expect good standard deviations with 322. Unfortunately, hard to find, and I'm running a little bit low on it. Ramshot TAC almost got a full pound. We've only shot 15, 20 something grain charges. So got plenty of TAC on the shelf to try out and other things. From there, guys, pretty happy with how all that went. Affiliate link to Arken Optics, which was what I was using today, the 4-16, great AR-15 optics choice. You can always get the 6-24 if you're trying to zoom in on your target a little more. And then use code WDS at checkout for free shipping. Outside that, I've got a Shoot Steel affiliate link. Be sure to check out my friends over at Uintah Precision. Bolt action AR uppers and semi-automatic AR uppers. Very nice high-end, forged upper and lowers. Really sweet billet upper and lowers. Really sweet guns that mine was custom coated in that beautiful brown. So thanks to Uintah Precision for taking care of me like that. Moving on, I think I'm going to have some more fun with both these powders and the 53 grain Vmax. I'm liking all of it all around. And I think we can tweak some things to increase our performance. Probably going to change brass out, see if some Lake City would really make a difference in that. You know, maybe I could reshoot this entire test with just using Lake City. Could be an interesting comparison. So you guys will have to let me know if that's something you would want to see. Should I just redo all of this exact same thing, just change the brass and see what kind of differences we see, if any? Yeah, definitely something I could do there. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the content. Be sure to let me know if you do, and we will see you guys in the next one.